5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Oh, hello, welcome back. How the devil are you? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye. Wherever you are in the world, and there I am, one of those will apply to you. I'm just getting a little bit worried because my weak signal has just flashed up at me again. For those of you that were here last night, thank you very much if you're coming back. Last night was a little bit awkward, various reasons, but I think I could have got through to the space shuttle, the space station, and spoken a lot clearer if Craig was there rather than in the wilds of Leicester. But yeah, we were having struggling with a bit of a delay between us. But although looking back, it was quite funny. But welcome along. So what we're going to do is what we tried to do yesterday. It's over. I've not told Craig yet. I hope that doesn't, I hope he's going to be all right. But I still like you, Craig. But the transfer window is over. Nothing now in or out, barring maybe one or two popping off for some Turkish delight between now and January. So I asked Craig, what's Marti's best, squad? His starting 11, his substitutes, basically because we've got, we're stuck now with what we've got. And so we're going to be coming up. And that's just my way of saying, don't blame me if you don't agree with any of this. But thanks to Ronald, thanks to Kyle who are in already. If you are in, do join in the chat. It won't be coming up tonight because of various reasons, but we will be referring to your thoughts. And you are allowed to disagree. Just keep it respectful. If you're watching on catch up, you can do the same, but just add your comments in the description below. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much for lending me your ears. And don't forget, if you're watching live, do all that there. Look at all those different little things you can do. And you know what? They're all free as well. Let's get on with it. Let's talk Leicester. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. There he is, Craig. Good evening, sir. How are you? Yeah, fuck off, mate. You were better be bloody joking then. I hate Craig.
Of course I'm joking.
Yes. You, God. I tell you what, mate. Welcome to your last show.
Yeah, thanks. Last night was so good. I just thought we'd do it again.
Well, yes, it was a bit difficult, wasn't it, last night?
It was a bit, and not only did we have a few idiots in the chat, we had technical difficulties, and for some reason you agreed. Yeah.
Do we have technical difficulties, did we?
Yes, exactly. If you know, you know. and you accidentally agreed with me on multiple occasions. So yeah, it all seemed to go wrong.
It did, didn't it? Can I just say as well that this is our first show that's going out with auto dubbing on. So if you're living in some far-flung part of the world and don't really have a good knowledge of the English language, apparently it will come over with subtitles up. So all you Geordies, welcome along. Hang on, that's just lost all my Newcastle viewers, hasn't it? Right, so basically this isn't, we're not picking here what we think the starting lineup against Oxford will be, because of course we've still got international games, so there may be injuries, but it's what we think his best squad is going to be. Going on the bottom there, you've got the ins and outs, so obviously the outs can't be chosen. But shall we do it, Craig?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see if anything's changed from last night.
I wonder. Well, here it is.
As if I would change anything just to mess up your lovely graphic.
Well, you're already on your last show, so you might as well go out with a bang.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we go. That's the way to do it. We're going to do it this way instead because it makes it a lot easier. Look, we did talk through this yesterday, but we'll go through it again for anybody that wasn't here. I do feel like this is like a +1 channel.
It is really, isn't it?
Yes. Please do not vote now because the phone lines are closed, but you may still be charged.
Exactly. But, you know, if people are watching who didn't see it last night, then this is my take on who I think is potentially his strongest starting 11, with a couple of provisos, one being that everybody's playing to the best of their ability.
Yes.
Two, there is some sort of acknowledgement of how the season has started and those who have performed, and also trying to strike some kind of balance in the team. You can't just put what you think necessarily are all the best players in the team. There has to be a balance. So some people will be on the bench who probably I may not want them to be on the bench, but they don't fit for some reason. And, you know, unlike that, I know that takes me out of any chance of getting the England manager's job. By trying to pick a balanced team instead of just putting all my favourites in. But that's the way I've done it, and it's there for discussion. So.
That's the best way, and that is why I picked you, sir, because I knew you would do it properly. We'd probably all saying at the start of the season, we can play all the youngsters, but you can't have 11 youngsters out there. You know, so and I think you've gone. I mean, we had agreed really on the whole thing. So you know, you for me, you're not far off this at all. But we'll start in goal, which is probably your easiest decision of the evening. I said yesterday I was disappointed we didn't get a third goalkeeper, and I do like 3 goalkeepers, and yes, I know I do go on about it, but to me, you know, we look, it's international break, and all the international teams are going away with 3 keepers in the squad.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was the easiest one, and I'll just state again, some of them were not easy decisions at all. You know, there were players that I wanted in, but I just felt I couldn't justify. Still, Archie has to start really against the 83-year-old Begovic, and really, you know, I'm sure he's a solid keeper, and probably Begovic would lack a little bit of mobility sitting in the chair between the sticks. But you know, I as I said yesterday, I still think that we will dip into the market for a free agent and try and find a free agent, or maybe just talk to someone who's got, you know, a third keeper who's sitting around in their squad that they don't really want. You know, that could even happen. You know, there will be teams who have got 3 keepers like we had for a while. Yeah, you know, when we had Jukupovic, who was a very good keeper, but didn't even make the bench. He was third choice. So it could be that we approach someone and say, right, cancel down his contract, make him a free agent. We'll bung you some or whatever it is.
I just say bung is probably not the word to use.
maybe. But I'm sure that gets a wage off some of the clubs' books.
Yeah,
if they've got a third choice keeper who's sitting there taking some decent money. So it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of thing could happen as well. But I expect us to pick up someone.
We've always done that, haven't we? Like you said, we had Jupokovic, we had Schwarzer.
You had Schmeichel, Ward, and Jukupovic, didn't you? All keeper and Jukupovic had played the previous season for Hull.
Yes,
and all of a sudden he was third choice.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Bekovic hasn't played for a season because he was never used at. You've got to say Pickford's probably going to have been injured for him to replace him. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, if Stolocci went off at half time because he's pulled a muscle and he was coming on for 45 minutes, he'd probably do us a fine job, and possibly even the next game if it was a midweek game week. But I just don't think that it. I just couldn't. I'd worry if he was in for 3 or 4 months. That's what I'm saying. Yes. And the QPR guy said, well, from 2 seasons ago, yes, he did well, but he cost them as many goals as he saved them.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's always the thing with keepers. Keepers are there to be literally shot at. Literally.
And look, he made a bad mistake the other game against, was it Preston? Yes. When he came out and you can't blame that on youth or inexperience because, players of all ages will make a rick every now and again. And as long as he learns from it, then,
It just highlights, though, doesn't it, that everybody thinks, or not everybody these days, but go back 15 years, let's say. Your goalkeeper, you wanted 2 things. One, that he could catch a ball if it came into the box.
Yeah.
And 2, he could make some saves. The things about distribution or even decision-making, when they now have to be sweeper keepers, they never really came into it. So you're looking at a whole different set of skills that a goalkeeper needs to when Begovic started his career.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever watch The Big Match Revisited.
I've seen the odd one or two.
Yeah, on ITV. If you look there, I'd probably say 7 times out of 10, if not 8, once the goalkeeper had the ball, he just booted it up the field. There was no looking around who's free, just get it up the other end, and it's then up to the other players to get on the end of it.
Well, before that, he could pick it up. Roll it back to him, he could pick up a back pass.
Well, he caught the back pass, yes, indeed.
Viewers, that actually happened.
Yeah. Yes. That would be good in a what happened next quiz, wouldn't it? Yeah. So that's and again, obviously, I agree with you totally on that one. I also agree with you with the left back, Luke Thomas. I feel a bit. I mean, Christensen's injured. There's a bit in the paper today about, or one of the websites saying that we should do what we can to keep hold of him. Blah blah blah. And I felt bad for all these players last season because, when you're being led by a donkey, you act like a donkey. And, when Christensen got the ball and was able to get up the field, 9 times out of 10 he had to come back because there was nobody in the box for him to chip it in for because Ruud van Nistelrooy didn't do that. But he is injured. But this guy, and we've said yesterday, he's been a scapegoat. And I think with everything that he's taken, his Sheffield United loan spell, which was probably one of the most disastrous loan spells ever going, to come back and still put in the performances that he does, I really, really respect this guy.
Yeah. Again, I've been a big fan. Yeah. I think we sometimes expect players to be perfect, not make any mistakes, any misplaced passes or whatever. Those players don't exist, even when we were in our heyday, Chris.
Yeah.
So yes, he has got a mistake in him, and they're more that they tend to be positional rather than he's doing something wrong with the ball or missing a challenge. For his size, I find him to be the size to aggression ratio is tilted in his favour because he's really aggressive. He likes to get very close to his winger and not give them any room to turn, whatever, which means if you're up against a good player, he's going to get rolled now and again. But he's a solid kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10 most weeks, I would say. And fair play to him, as you say, he's been in and out of the team. It looks like he could have gone a couple of times, but he's never given anything other than 100%. And I think that's the minimum that we expect, but we don't often always get off our players. But I don't think I've ever seen Thomas not try, not feel like or look like he's given it everything.
Now, do you think if Christensen had been fully fit, that Thomas might have gone?
Well, it depends. Maybe if we still had JJ at the time, he may well have done. Because I'm not sure you need 3. And as we've discussed on this channel before, sometimes you need to move people on to let the next wave come through. So at the minute we've got Aluko, who by all accounts can play anywhere across the back line. Again, so if you've got 2, 3 left backs, full backs in front of him on each side, his opportunities are going to be limited. So sometimes if you've got 3, you need to move one on to allow him to come through as well. So he may well have got moved on. But as you say, Christensen had been injured a lot. Ricardo was injured, so JJ ended up playing out on the right-hand side, where he would have put Thomas under pressure for a left-back spot. So he's been there, and he's doing pretty well. It'll be interesting to see when Christensen is fit, where Marti goes, because Christensen loves bombing forward. Now, Marti likes his fullbacks to go forward. He also likes them to come inside a bit, and I think Thomas is probably more capable of that. Christensen, for me, would be a little bit hot-headed because he just bombs forward, and then he could end up running into his winger if his winger's not moved inside. But if the way that we're looking now with the new players that we've brought in, and having a proper centre forward who's over 6 foot in there, Christensen may have some qualities in terms of his crossing that puts him ahead of Thomas. So he will have a decision to make, but he's got to get himself first.
It's not a bad decision to have, though, is it? That's the thing. No. Hi to Wayne, who's come in. I hope you had a happy Friday as well. Ricardo Hamza have and can play on the left, says Armchair. Good point here, just going back to the keepers. Armchair says, like to see keepers today not wearing any gloves. They might sting the fingers. You can't be having that, the goalkeepers. No, they're an endangered species. The WWF are at every game in case the keeper gets hurt. Did I sound a little bit sarcastic then? And Ronald says, even Pepper's not signed a ball-playing goalkeeper in this transfer window. Hopefully, this is an end to the nonsense. Well, I doubt it very much. Yeah, exactly, Craig. Right back. Again, totally agree with you here. If this guy can stay fit, he has to be one of the first choices on the team sheet. He's loved by everybody at the club. Like you said yesterday, he's the captain. It does mean no Chowdhury, but we'll come on and discuss that in a second. My worry is, and I was quite happy if he'd gone this window, and 2 reasons for that is, A, because Hamza had been doing all right in that position. Don't think necessarily he would do in the Prem, but in this division, Hamza was doing okay. And B, he's got a permanent bed at Leicester Royal Infirmary, hasn't he? He's like, keep it clear just in case Ricardo's coming in. And that's the worry, because once you get that reputation, it kind of sticks with you, even if you're not. And last time we were down here, he wasn't like that. But when he does get injured, it's not just a quick week or 2 weeks normally, is it?
No, he does tend to be out for a bit, and the older you get, the longer those injuries take to recover from. But I think, and again, we talked about this. One of the reasons I would have kept Ricardo anyway is because he's just such a fantastic pro, and I'm not a big fan of keeping people hanging around on the wage bill just for their just for morale. Like Tuchel has picked Henderson, for team morale. I mean, if you're doing that, you might as well have picked Peter Kay or someone. Just do that. You're not going to play.
I haven't even looked at the team that he's picked. I've got no interest in it whatsoever. I didn't realise he was still picking Henderson.
I don't watch it as much. Yeah, but if his reason for putting him in the last squad was, he's very good around the lads. It's good for morale. As I say, just bring Darren Brown, anyone. If that's the case, it's just ridiculous. And as I say, I'm not a fan of keeping people on just for that. But I think this guy has so much to offer off the pitch as well as on the pitch. As you say, he was chosen as a captain, and Marti discussed it with all the staff, with the players, and Ricardo got the nod. He's well respected by everyone. And I think he's such a good pro that when you've got a team that is going to have a lot of youngsters coming through the system, somebody like Ricardo is a fantastic pro for them to be looking up to and for passing on his advice. I would hope that while he's here, and maybe during his numerous recovery periods that he's been doing his coaching badges, because I would like him I'd like him to see out his career here and then go into coaching, because I just think he's a fantastic player, and if he's fit, he has to be in. Even in the Premier League, for me, if he was fit, he'd be in there. He's capable of that. So at this level, he should be a cut above.
Looking at our squad, not just the starting 11, and we always used to say that about Jamie Vardy, didn't we? He was the one that people, he everyone was like, come on, but people would cheer from the terraces, sort it out, Jamie, if there's any problems. And I think that role does now fall on Ricardo.
Yes, yeah, and I think he's intelligent enough. I'm a big fan of intelligent footballers. You can see those who can think 2 or 3 passes ahead or can sense danger and fill the gaps. He's one of those players, and there's not enough of them around, and we're lucky enough to have him.
Yeah. Wayne says, haha, Peter Kay, John Smith's Bitter Craig.
Yes, indeed.
Those of us of a certain age.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was lovely when Robert Huth tried to recreate that on a free kick a few years ago.
You're going to let that go, Craig. A bit like Robert Huth did. But yes, have it. And Ronald says, if Ricardo is fit, he's the first player on my team sheet. A bit like Brian Little was with Walshy. There's always got to be one of those players in there, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Just
the right character. And, he's more than capable of getting forward and nicking a goal as he did against Birmingham.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, that's always been part of his, game, hasn't it?
Exactly.
He's not in your face. He's not a Jamie Vardy Mark II for that side of it. He goes about it very quietly and has, probably would take somebody away and just have a chat in their ear, sort of thing.
I've got I've got a friend who works at a company who they regularly have to go into the football ground, the training ground, and do tests on these players or whatever, and they often report that the majority of them come across as arrogant, overpaid gits. And one of the few that doesn't is Ricardo, who is always mentioned as just being a lovely, lovely guy. And maybe nice guys do finish first sometimes.
Yes. Right, 2 centre-backs. Start on the left, which, again, I can't argue with your choices there. But I was surprised, to be honest with you, because although there's still rumours about Faze going off to Turkey, which some people might find delightful.
Mm-hmm.
Got it in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally
Moving on.
still on. Well done.
Yeah. Moving
Yeah.
on. Moving on. But you've gone for Vestergaard. Again, my other worry was I've never particularly liked him on the left, but then Marti is playing him on the left, and he's done all right this season. Again, a much maligned. Look, we know he's got the speed of an elephant, being chased. He's got the turning circle of the Titanic, but what he does, which is the long passes. The calmness of his defending, just sticking a boot in and stopping an attack, he doesn't get much praise for that, does he?
No, he's kind of a Van Dijk light, although a lot heavier on the feet. The two centre halves here. This is probably the decision that is most based on how they've started the season, because for me at the start of the season Vestergaard wouldn't get anywhere near the team, and I'm still worried about his lack of pace, and I think that's why you've got to have somebody with pace alongside him.
Yeah,
but he does read the game pretty well. He has been at fault for a couple of goals, which is disappointing to say the least. But the way that Marti wants to play, and I don't like the build out up from the back, but he does have a much better passing range than anyone else. And a couple of the passes that he played in the Birmingham game were phenomenal, to be honest. There was one where we almost scored, and it was like a 50-yard pass straight through the middle. Superb. And, that vision as well that you get from the back. And if Marti wants that transition quicker, with his wingers making intelligent runs, and particularly with the likes of Ramsey and the new players that we've got, they're moving into space. They've got to be given the ball pretty quick, so you need somebody who can do that accurately. So that's why he's got the nod. If we were doing this at the start of the season, there's no way that he would be there. But I have to recognise what he brings, and it's also that balance as well, alongside having an aggressive defender alongside him.
And that's why you are my wise old owl, sir. Yeah, I agree. And, we all, everybody acknowledges what he did the last time we were in this league, but that was a couple of years ago. So, we're waiting to see. I think the jury's out on that one. Look, everybody that watches this and knows me knows my feeling towards Wout Faes. Things I don't agree about with Wout Faes is the booing when he comes on. But he does, as I said yesterday, he very much reminds me of Maguire when he gets the ball and runs forward with it. And I actually like him this season. God, sorry, thought it just stuck in my throat then. If he doesn't go, do you then bring him in and drop Vestergaard?
I don't. I think if he comes in ahead of Okoli, because I think you have to have that balance. And Okoli and Fars are very, very aggressive players who like to move forward and get in and try and nick the ball. If you've got two of those, I'm not sure that either of them is intelligent enough to read the spaces in between them. And I am the one who really likes Fars, and yes, he's got a rick in him, and he has got an attitude. But as I said the other night, just watch the behaviour of Van Dijk at Liverpool very often, who throws his arms up and looks around at the other players as if it's everyone else's fault except his. Usually because it isn't. But Fars is the same. But we look at Fars and say, "Oh, he's throwing his arms around" or whatever. But I don't think there are circumstances where I think they could play together, Okoli and Fars, and it would be really super aggressive. If you're coming up against a team that's got big aggressive centre forwards, then maybe. But I just think for balance, I think you can allow one to really give the striker a bit of a knock around and the other one to pick up the pieces and pass the ball on. So I think together they work better.
Wayne says there, Chris Val, romance. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things. Armchair makes a very good point here. Last time we were in the Championship, his blocking was second to none, and something happened.
Yeah.
I sat behind the goal, and he is a master of the dark arts. I think Vestergaard will be one of those players that we will appreciate him more when he's gone than here. Somebody that was rumoured to be going and was nearly gone, but didn't, and I'm pleased because I absolutely love this guy, and I think moving forward he's going to be our main defender, and that is Caleb Coley.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Again, he played on the left, I think, late last season. I think he'd been left out the team, and I don't know if there was injuries, but he came in and he played on the left-hand side of the centre-half pairing, and he was absolutely awful. Now, whether that's because he didn't feel comfortable on the left because he's predominantly right-footed, I don't know, but it was a shocking game. And again, this is that thing about players like that can get involved a lot in the heat of the game. So you need someone who can stay calm. And I think having a Coley and Fars would be difficult if we're going to be. And in the Championship, you are going to be in games where they're a lot more aggressive and a lot more heated than maybe the Premier League, mainly because the referees will let a lot more go. I think Coley looks really good. You know, I like him. And based on his performances this season, he warrants keeping Fars out of the team. And you know, I would love to have Fars in there, but just putting a sensible head on how those two have performed, then they have to keep their shirts.
Armchair is making a comment there that he has to push forward quicker, like FaZe does.
Yeah, that's the good thing. I mean, that is a good point, because that's what Marti talks about very often, and that's why he will switch him. If he thinks that, you know, we're getting a lot of the ball at the back because the opposition are sitting in a little bit more, then that ball has to be moved forward quicker, but also not just moved forward quicker, but one higher up the pitch. And Fast tends to be the one who likes to try and get up higher up the pitch, nip in and win the ball higher up the pitch. So that's what he'll do. If he thinks in those last 20 minutes that we're not doing that, then he'll bring Fast on, and you can see the difference. And it's sometimes it's rare to be able to see the difference that a centre half makes, because you just think, oh, they sit there and they defend. But when one of them is aggressive and is almost starting a lot of your attacks, then it makes a difference having that ability off the bench. So I as I say, I really like Fast, but you're right there that Coley needs to be that, and I think that will come with confidence, you know, of him feeling that he's part of this squad. And I love his attitude. You know, he's been rumoured to be going, you know, on more than one occasion. If you see the reaction when Ricardo scored, there's a shot from behind the goal, and Coley is in the centre circle, and his arms are up straight away, herring off to celebrate. Yeah. So, you know, he looks like he feels like he feels part of it now. So, I think we're doing well with centre halves at the minute.
I think so, and his attitude when he wins, you know, he puts a block in or gets the ball out for a corner. You know, it's like he's just scored a goal himself. You can't put that attitude into players. You can teach them skill and you can teach them how to pass, etc. Well, unless you call Ruud van Nistelrooy, but you know, you can't teach that attitude. And another player who had that attitude for me, and I can understand why you've not put him in, and that's Hamza Chowdhury, because we'll come on to the subs later, but I would love to see Hamza. Look, he's played very well at right back, done really, really well. He is a utility player that can actually play a couple of the roles. I think I said yesterday, didn't I? You know, Phil Neville was a utility player, and, you know, he was more toilet than utility. But I just... I like him, and I would have maybe liked to see him as one of our two CDMs, but I can't argue with the two that you've gone for. Winks, again, is another one that could still go. And was I disappointed that he didn't go? Probably a little bit on the thinking with my money head on, because he's on 90 grand a week. He's the most expensive player for wages in the whole division in 24 teams. So he's now got to prove that he's worth that. Last time we were down here, he did, in fairness. And I know you've been critical of him with, his sort of where he goes and where he stays before games and what have you, but you have put him in there.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've tried to look beyond that. The same with Vestergaard. He's managed to turn it around and get himself back in. And I hope that Winks does the same. I really did not like what he did. I thought his attitude stunk. So far this season, his attitude hasn't looked great. I'm hoping that as a highly paid professional footballer who is going to be at this club at least until January, that he realises that if he does want to move, he needs to put in some decent performances. So you would think he's intelligent enough to realise, actually, if I want to put myself in the shop window, the best way of doing it is to knuckle down and show that I am indispensable in this team. And to be fair, he's done that when he's come on. He's made an impact. He's looked the tidiest player in there in terms of keeping the ball and moving the ball quicker. Clearly, he's still got problems because he's, the way he stormed off the pitch away at Charlton, I think it was. Didn't like that at all. But if we're talking about picking players on their ability when they're at the top of their game, then Winks has to be one of those two.
He, like you say, he changes the game when he comes on, doesn't he? Normally because either Skipper Samari have been playing shit. But, I have liked him when he comes on. And Marti's not one for standing on ceremony. We've seen that, with Valface. We've seen it, with Winks as well. Two players that he said, look, your head's not here. And El Canus. I mean, you could argue the biggest talent at the squad, in the squad. And he went, no, you're not playing. Your head's not in the right place. If only Rodgers had done that with a certain player.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that. And, I know Ronald has talked about Chowdhury there as well. And I've got stuff to say about Chowdhury, but I'll save it till when we're talking about our subs, our bench.
Yeah.
But you can see with Marti that he is building a togetherness in the team. And I think that's really important to him. You can see the reaction of the players when we got that second goal against Birmingham.
Yeah.
One of the best bits about that for me was the reaction of the players on the bench and the players who had been subbed, who could easily have been sulking or whatever, but no, they were all into it. And people, it looks like they're buying into it. There was definitely more togetherness during that Birmingham game. There was more desire to run and cover and work for each other. So I think that's really important that Marti's doing that. So Winks will have to knuckle down, or he's not going to get a place in that team. He's more than capable of doing it, but it will come down to attitude. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully he's got, this fortnight of the break to be working with the players that are still here. And hopefully he can sit him down and get his head turned.
And talking about that second goal, I mean, the thing that impressed me was as well, Stolarczyk ran from his goal line right up to where the manager was to join in the celebrations, and it's great to see. But again, I can't argue with you there. If his head's in the right place, I think he's got to be a starter.
And as Wayne says there, it's got to be that the only way he's in here is if he's turned his head round and he's knuckling down and he wants to be there. Otherwise, he's not in the team.
Well, we've seen, and Wayne, you put then I can't see Marti standing for that if he doesn't do that. And exactly when you leave El Canus out, who was probably our best player last season. Then again, he didn't have a lot of competition, did he? Do you know what I mean? So, to be able to stand up and do that and not be scared of a player and go, look, I'm not picking you. So they lose the match bonus. I presume players still get match bonuses. And it's you'd have to go off and walk Vestergaard's dog for him. The other one that you put in there, and I love this, I absolutely love this, because you said yesterday, so I can't take credit for this. This is something that Craig said. Why get players in if you're not going to play them? 100%. I mean, you would never find, Leicester City buying a player or taking a player in on loan and then leaving them out of your cup squad or your European squad, would you? You'd never get Leicester doing that. Maybe if a certain manager was still in charge. But what is the point? This guy excites me. We've seen what he can do against us when he was at Birmingham. He knows this division. He's gone off to was it Germany? He went to
France. He went to Rennes.
Oh, he did, Stade Rennes, yeah, that's quite right. So he went off to France, and fair enough for him. He was on the offer, and let's be honest with you, if all of us were offered to do jobs in a different country, we might choose it at the moment, the way things are happening here. So fair play to him. It didn't work out. He's come back, so he's got a point to prove as well. I really like this guy.
Yeah. He looked really good when he was at Birmingham. As I said last night, he was really highly rated, not highly rated enough to retire his shirt when he left. But he looked like he was going to go on and be a really good player. And I think there was a lot of clubs looking at him at that time. And he decided to go and have this experience abroad. Considering his age, he's only 21. He's got a lot of football under his belt already. And now he's at the age where he can kick on, and he's in a team that will give him the opportunity to express himself. I think he's full of energy, and he's no pushover in the middle of that midfield. You see quite a few clips of him that he doesn't mind using his arms and his body weight to push past people. You think of Samari. When Samari does do that, he looks a much better player as well. But this guy will have a bit more pace and will do it on. I expect him to be doing it for 80 minutes, not 20 minutes like Samari does.
Yeah,
and he's more than capable and willing, which is the biggest thing, to do the defensive stuff and to try and get on the end of things at the top end of the pitch as well. So I'm really excited about him. And as you said, there's no point bringing players in on loan to sit them on the bench. It makes absolutely no sense. And even more so with this guy, because we've got that option to buy him, that if we can bed him in and make him part of something, part of that midfield, then, even if we're down here for 1-2 seasons, great. If we go up, hopefully he feels part of it as well. But I'm excited to see what he can bring.
Oh, totally. And he's, you look at some players and you think, if you farters even past them, they fall over. This guy looks quite stocky, and he's only 21. He looks a lot older.
Exactly.
He is, I suppose you'd call them a box-to-box midfielder. His main role is central, but he can also play defensive as you've got him there, or attacking. I don't think Samara, who's supposed to be a box-to-box midfielder, could run between two boxes and, on different aisles at Tesco, to be honest with you. But this guy, he really, really does. As Wayne says there, loving the signing. I do. And, of course, this gent, he's half Welsh, half English, just covering myself again there. I had to get that in, but he's chosen to play for Wales. But in my defence, he's got English citizenship as well. But, yeah, absolutely looking forward to seeing him play. Right, going on to the three behind the striker. I would imagine, I think if I was doing this would have been one of my difficult choices, because Monga is an absolute, and Wayne's going to get excited here, but he's an absolutely one-off, isn't he? He's one of those players, and unfortunately, he may not be here with us much longer because he is that good. But we have got him for a bit. Let's make the most of him. But he is still 2 years at school, which means, I don't know what the contract was he signed, but he's not going to be moving when he's in the middle of his last 2 years at school, is he? Let's be honest.
No, he's got to knuckle down and get a trade behind him, definitely.
Yeah. And but you have to take into account that he is still at school. So will he be able to start games? Will he, if he's got an exam or he's got, homework? Yeah. But as we said, this isn't about a starting 11. This is about our best 11.
Yeah.
And to say that Mavididi goes off, and I preferred it. I think Munga's a better player when he comes on than when he starts. But we've only seen him start once, in fairness. But if you're being picked to come on all the time and Mavididi's being picked to go off, what does that tell you?
Yeah, it was a tricky one because I know some people don't like Mavididi. I really like Mavididi. Yes, yeah. He's not as easy on the eye as Abdul on the other side. He doesn't do that kind of cutting and whipping balls into the top corner or whatever. But what I like about him is his attitude, that he will continue to try and go at the fullback, And again, I fully expected him, when he's getting taken off every week, to be a bit surly, a little bit Mardi. But that reaction to Ricardo's goal against Birmingham, with him jumping up off the bench, was fantastic. I loved seeing that. And he knows, Monga should raise Mavididi's game.
Yes.
He's not had... he's not had a lot of competition last season. He didn't really have a lot of competition for that spot. So he's at an age where he needs to kick on as well, Mavididi. And yeah, you could make an argument for both of them. And I think you're right that Monga, it would probably be better coming on against tiring defenders for the last 20 minutes and can really make an impact that way. And it would not surprise me if Marti decides that's the way to use him, sparingly. But I think if we're talking about people at the top of the game and playing as well as they can, then Monga just looks something special, and therefore he has to be in just for that reason alone.
Yeah. Wayne says, do you remember the drag of homework? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I do. I could give you a whole other show on my thoughts on homework. An armchair says, surely he's paying somebody to do his homework. You'd think so, wouldn't you? Again, go back 2 years when we were in the Championship, and we just bought Mavididi in, and they tore the Championship a shred, didn't they? And we thought, God, I want to see these two in the Premier League. They both got a bit of an injury one way or the other. But Mavididi hasn't quite hit the heights that Fatawu has. But Fatawu, again, was this literally, apart from Stellar kicking goal, was this your easiest decision, picking Fatawu?
Yes, yeah. If Casey McAteer had still been here, would it have been different? No, of course not. He has to be picked. He's going to be. Wingers are frustrating at times. They're going to be. They're not really going to want to do the defensive work. Abdul seems like he's up for the challenge of working hard as well, and you can just see the joy on his face when he scores or assists or whatever. He just loves playing football. And those players are a joy to have, and we're lucky enough to have him in our team. And I think, I think we're so lucky that he's come back from injury looking like he hasn't been away. We've seen enough players who have never quite been the same player. JJ, our old JJ as we've got now. Yeah. Now we've got Jordan James. But James Justin was never quite the same player when he came back, and there's numerous others who have been the same.
Indeed, probably could argue.
Yeah, but it looks like Abdul's come back and trying to make up for lost time, and just it's going to be one of those big what ifs. What if he was fit enough for the last Premier League season? Would he have helped us get enough points to get us up? Who knows? But we've got him now, and we've got him at least until January, and that's the downside, isn't it? If he carries on the way he's started, then all eyes are going to be on him in January.
Hopefully, we've made enough strides towards sorting out PSR in this window that we can
Yeah.
afford to say, no, you're not going anywhere in January.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's Locke. I don't know. It could be Manny. It's a very similar team to mine, that Chris. I just have Samari in there instead of Harry Winks. Well, you're all allowed. Yeah, surely, no problem, mate. Surely that's a problem for you. And you need to seek medical advice. Let me just say, Locks, you probably putting Samari in. No, he's had a better season, but if Winks is on form, I'm sorry, he's got to be Winks over the thing. But I noticed actually, because if you're not checked it out yet, do get over to Blue Tinted Glasses. You've also got Jack's Final Whistle. He did one of these yesterday. Funny enough, at the same time as we were doing this, but his was working, ours wasn't, which is why we're back today. And they're all pretty similar, to be honest with you. And there's something you never thought you'd see. Leicester City fans agreeing with each other. No, I know what you're saying, Locks. I do know what you're saying. And we were saying that before. And let there be light. What we're saying before. Craig says exactly the same thing. Winks is in there on a proviso that he sorts his head out. And if he doesn't sort his head out, and he may still end up going to Turkey or Saudi Arabia or maybe a Chile or somewhere like that, who knows? But I don't know how he'll get to training if he's going off to one of those places. That's the worry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how far is it? How far is it from Milton Keynes to Istanbul? Could he do that in the morning? But we could afford a private bloody jet, couldn't he? But yeah, I get what you want. But Craig did make the proviso that it was on the fact that he had his head sorted.
Yeah, there's no way, Locks, that if he isn't, then there's no way he's in this team, because I hated that as much as you did or anyone did. So yeah, that's the only way that he gets in this team. If his head's not in the right place, he's not in the team.
No. Aaron Ramsey said Gordon Ramsay then. He'd cut open the opposition, wouldn't he? Well, no, he used to be a footballer, remember?
He did, yeah, he did. Up at Rangers, I think, yeah.
Yes, he did. He only went into Sheffield because his football career was curtailed, shall we say. Look, he's come from Burnley, and as everybody that knows me, I had 20 odd years in Burnley. And I spoke to Dan before we'd signed him, but just when you got linked with him on Monday, and said, what do you think know about this guy? He's obviously coming from Burnley. And he says, workhorse, mate. He's only just come back from 18 months out from injury, so it'll be a huge season for him, but he's got that hunger and desire to succeed. It would be a great move for him. Now, Dan, I have to say, one of the better presenters on different channels, and I take that as a hearty recommendation.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for Ramsey, to be honest, to get himself back to the levels where he was. Again, we know you can't go on show reels or whatever, but he looks like he's the real deal. Got an eye for goal, which is great, which we've not really had from that number 10 slot. Even Canoes hasn't. His numbers of assists and goals is pretty low, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's pretty low across his whole career, not just at Leicester, but where he was before in Genk, I think it was. But Ramsey looks like he wants to get in there and score goals, and he wants to be busy. He wants to get on the ball. And again, I think it's a really exciting signing. I think these three that we've picked up, Carranza's going to be an unknown quantity, but these two guys in James and Ramsey look really exciting, and at that point where they've got something to prove. And we know, going back to the days of O'Neill and Pearson, who loved players with something to prove, because you weren't getting them just to run down their contract, run down their career and pick up the wages. They had something to prove, and they had that energy and desire to be successful. And yes, you end up losing players if you're successful, but you lose them because they're successful, and we ride on the back of that. So I think Ramsey is another exciting one, and not easy to put him straight in when you look at the other options that we've got in the middle of midfield. You could argue that we're developing a Burnley player ahead of developing one of our own players in Louis Page. You could say we've got a high earner and an experienced player in Ayew who could play there and has played much better in that role than he has as a number 9. But again, I think with the way that Marti wants to close down from the front, wants that high press, wants more energy from his front players, I think Ramsey has to be in there.
Indeed. And he scored a goal before he left to join us against Derby, in the cup. And again, guys, we've got to remember that this is a 46-game season. Add one on for the Carabao Cup, which is 47, because we only had one game in that. Let's say we have 3 in the FA Cup. So you're looking at a 50-game season. We're not going to get these players playing 50 games a week. Certainly, and that was the worry. Whilst I understood, and I said Ayew would probably be the main striker going forward, unless we bought somebody. And yes, he could very easily fill that Ramsey role. But I think he's, again, the sort of player, and I'm not saying that you should drop a player, bring a player in, but if you are using the players right, a player will have, say, 60 minutes on the weekend, be swapped over, and then maybe alternate it for the midweek game. And I can see Ramsey starting there. And then if we need to hold on to something, Ayew comes on and fulfills that role of breaking the play up and keeping hold of the ball.
He could easily be that new kind of Okazaki, just playing just off the main striker as he did, but just really busy and causing, so much trouble for the defenders, not giving them time on the ball. And I could see Ramsey being very similar to that kind of play. And he was a bit of an unsung hero, Okazaki, in that championship winning season. For a striker, he didn't get loads and loads of goals, but the trouble he caused was allowed other players to get the goals. So I'm thinking Ramsey could do a similar job for us.
I remember the first game that Okazaki played for us, which was the Sunderland game at the start of that season, and it was at that. I remember sat there, and I was at I was down the side, and I was at the level of kind of where he would be playing, if you like. And I turned to my son and I went, "He's going to be bloody knackered." I said, "He's like a dog with a bone. He's just not letting anything go. He's biting and biting all the time." And it was great to see, and I love the guy to bits. Oh, what we'd give to have him in the. And nobody liked fish and chips as much as Sinji either. Let's be honest with you. Although you could argue he probably thought it was whale. But that's unfair. I was in Australia last year, and I went on a whale cruise to see the whales coming in and out of the water. And there was a load of Japanese tourists on there. And I turned to my mate and said, "Oh, are they eyeing up the lunch?" But sorry to any Japanese. So look, I'm really excited to see this guy, and I think. Yes, to me, he starts the games a bit like maybe with Maverick. How he's been using Mavididi and Monga. I think he could be doing that with Ramsey, and because he's not scared of making a substitution, Marty.
No.
God, I forgot what it was like that you could change players at half time. But then in the last game, he only used 4 substitutes. He didn't really needed to. We've got a guy here who knows how to make substitutes and doesn't just make like for like, and gives us a plan B.
Yeah. Who'd have thought it?
Who would have thought it?
Only when he got Russell Martin.
Did you read my bit for the BBC this week?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the link. And at the end, I was putting some stats up, and I put, I'm sure Chelsea have already made a note of these.
Yeah.
But right, let's go up front.
Yep.
And I'm going to say I'm always going to have difficulties. Caranaza, is it? However you pronounce
Carranza.
it. Carranza. Arriba. Look, we all know we wanted a striker.
Yep.
And if we got a striker and that meant us not getting the third goalkeeper, I would have been, happy, because that was the more important role, if you like. We were desperate for a striker. I mean, if Daka was able to provide the goals, we probably wouldn't have needed necessarily. I think we still would have wanted a third striker, a bit like with the goalkeepers. This guy came on the scene late for us, didn't he? There was really no sort of links until the very, last minute, last sort of few days. But yet again, as you said yesterday, if you're going to get somebody in, then you're going to might as well use them.
Yeah. It's again, I think what they've got is players that fit what Marti wants. I'm sure that Marti loves Daka's work rate, and we all do. And I know there's some people just make some stupid comments about Daka. What you can't knock is his desire to work hard. He gets slagged off all the time, but he doesn't come on the pitch half-hearted. He'll come in and he'll try and close everyone down and make things happen, even if it's not for him. And I think Carranza is going to be a similar kind of player, but a proper striker, a proper, as they like to call them, a physical specimen of a 6-foot striker who likes the physical side of the game as much as anything else. And he said just as much in his interviews of his conversation with Marti and what he wants from a centre forward, and Carranza fits the bill. Obviously, his move to Feyenoord hasn't worked out the way that he would have liked, but I don't think he was brought in as a big money signing to go straight into the team. I think he was brought in to be a sub.
Well, he came on a free, so he definitely wasn't a big money signing.
Oh yeah, well, there you go then. No, I mean into Holland.
No, that was it. No, he went into Feyenoord on a free.
Yeah. But if we get the one who's played, if he brings his form from the MLS, and we know that's a different level, but it's probably going to be more League One. But so if he can make that step up to Championship, then he's got goals in him, right foot, left foot headers. He's got it all in him. And if you watch his kind of show reel, I know there's some on YouTube showing every goal that he scored in the MLS or whatever. What I liked there was one goal which wasn't really his, but I loved the finish, and it was one where he was a follow-up striker, and the other guy had come in and he challenged him with the keeper, and the ball had broken loose. And as you see with many players, he didn't just come and smash it as hard as he could. He just dinked it over the both of them and let it gently roll into the net, because he'd got that awareness of what was required in the moment. And that shows a kind of intelligent thinking striker who's got more than just a bit of pace and power. He's got some thought, and some of his finishes were fantastic. So he's clearly got the ability. Whether he can do it on this stage, time will tell, but I'm hopeful that he will. And again, like with the other two, I'm really excited to see what he can bring.
Yeah. My worry is we've got experience of bringing somebody over from the MLS and then loaning them out to our sister club, and he's now gone off to the height that is Portsmouth, Newport
County. Yeah,
Newport County. When you look at some of the other strikers that we were linked with, who's the guy from Portsmouth?
He was a winger, wasn't he? He's the brother of Murphy. Yeah, Murphy was more of a winger.
Josh Murphy was Josh Murphy.
Yeah, he's more of a winger.
Right.
The one I would have liked us to get was the guy from Millwall, and I would still like us to go back in for him. And I've seen a couple of reports saying that if Daka had moved on, we would have gone in for him. with a bit more gusto than we actually did. I think we made some tentative inquiries, but what they wanted, we weren't prepared to pay. But I think if he has a good season, then he's going to get snapped up, that kid. I think at 20, he looks really good at Millwall. So I would have liked him. But, we've gone down this route, and I hope Carranza can be a proper number 9, even though he's not wearing 9, which is probably good. I was thinking about this the other day about Ayew taking the number 9 shirt and whether it shows either confidence to do that, or as a senior pro taking the burden on himself, knowing that you're going to bring another striker in who's going to be tarnished with wearing Jamie's number 9 shirt. And I would like to think maybe that they had that conversation and thought, right, let Ayew take it. He's an experienced professional who can deal with anything that comes with it. Imagine if Carranza had come in, and I know he's coming in with his own pressure, but that wearing that number 9 Vardy shirt would have been even more pressure. So that's a little bit of something that he hasn't got.
Yes, exactly. Although I have started a Jamie Vardy bingo card as to how soon it is before Carranza misses an effort. Somebody goes, Jamie Vardy would have got that.
Well, if they watched him last season, then they know that he wouldn't.
Well, no, that's the thing. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
How long does it take us to actually forget Riyad Mahrez? I'd say only since Fataru's come in.
Yeah.
So hopefully he does. Again, an option to buy. Is it interesting? And I meant to say this when we were talking about Ramsey, and I forgot. But of the 3 players that we brought in, outfield players, 2 of them that we've got options to buy. We don't.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that shows that Burnley sees something in him and are hoping that he'll come back. So, maybe he's the one that's going to do well out of the 3 of them.
Yeah, what I would have liked to have heard is whether it's a full season-long loan with no option to recall. Because it could well be that he does well and Burnley decide to call him back in January or call him back at any point. The way that Chelsea have called back the young lad from Sunderland. He'd only been there a week on loan at Sunderland, and they called him back as soon as there was an injury to Delap. So, it'd be interesting to know whether there's any recall on him or any of them, to be honest. It's the kind of thing that doesn't get reported. These reporters don't ask the questions that we want answering, sadly.
Well, let's hope they dug out the contract that we signed for Edouard. To pick the name out and put Aaron Ramsey in. Talking of Edouard, he has actually moved on. Maybe we missed a bullet there. I don't know. But he has been sold. And Brownhill, who we all wanted, and how true it is that I don't think that we were ever seriously looking at that, because there's no way when we've done all this trying to get the wage bill down that we're going to get somebody on who's on 100 grand a week, allegedly, what we were offered. And he turned 60 grand down at Burnley, and that's to play in the champ. So he could now, next season, be captaining a Premier League team, and he's gone for the money to Saudi Arabia, where he will do very well, and he will, run rings around a lot of the local players.
Yeah, I guess the argument you can make for that is he's come to prominence fairly late in his career. He's been there a while, I think, and he's always been a kind of workhorse midfielder, and Parker turned him into this kind of goal machine, played him a little bit further forward, ends up as second top goal scorer in the division from there. So he's 29 now. You got to think that wherever he was going to go, if he was going to get a move to the Premier League, it was potentially to a team who would be facing relegation, whether it's Wolves, whether it's Leeds, the ones that he's been linked with. So does he, from that perspective, because every Premier League footballer is on a decent wage, most in the Championship on a decent, let's call it a living wage. And
If you want to live like Elon Musk, yes.
Yeah, he probably doesn't need the money, but if you're being offered a ridiculous amount at the age of 29, whereby you can't see that you're going to get a move to a club who's going to give you 2 or 3 seasons in the Premier League, then I don't think you can necessarily blame him.
No, and I joke about it, but I would never, when you are offered that. I mean, I was saying the same about El Canoes because there was rumours about him going to Saudi,
Yeah.
and I said, as a 21-year-old, it's the sort of place you go to end your career.
Yeah.
And would Ronaldo look as good as he's looked in the last couple of seasons had he been playing top flight somewhere in Europe? Probably not. But look, if you were offered that sort of money, you wouldn't turn it down, would you?
No. And, he's, as I say, at that age, depending on what else he's been offered, he probably just thinks, well, none of those really float my boat. I might as well go and take the money.
Yeah. Fair play to him. Fair play. We would have all done the same, even if we said, no, we'd have signed for Leicester. Right, so that's our starting 11. I mean, like Locke said, apart from he would have Samare in there instead of Winks. They're basically, the same team. So, a lot of, and I think Jax wasn't far off this either. But we'll have a look at those then that didn't make it. And you're allowed 9 substitutes, of which obviously you can pick 5. Which, I've got to say, up until the Birmingham game, Marty was using all 5, and he didn't even complain about it being hot either.
No, he didn't. And when you said that, you got 9 subs, I thought, okay, 9 is it? That's easy. But there had to be a big call in this, and there's two names who have been left out, even of the 9, and one of them I'm sure will provoke a little bit of critique, but it had to be done.
Yeah, and you can't go, this is my best player, this is my best player, this is, and then 6 of your 9 are all defenders.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, we will look at your list of substitutes straight after this. I was quite impressed with that one. Right, so here are your substitutes, 9 of them in fact. You got a nice mix there. Again, I was struggling to maybe find something to argue with you over here. Good God, we're spending too long together, Craig. Again, the easiest one is Bekovic. I mean, Bowser, sure he's very good. He's a local lad, etc., etc., etc. But he's not ready for a long run. I mean, I know I've said I wouldn't be happy for Bekovic to be in for 3 or 4 months, but sooner that than Bowser. No disrespect to him.
Yeah, I don't think he's anywhere near ready. You've got to have your experienced player on the bench. And just before we go through these, there were a couple of really tough decisions, and I changed my mind more times with these subs than I actually did on the starting 11. But the thing that I thought overall was at what point and in what circumstance would I bring this player on? And that's what sort of made me make the decisions. And I'm still looking at it now. There's still one there that I'm still not sure about. But that was my overriding thing. Can I see a scenario where that particular player is brought on ahead of someone else? And if I couldn't, then that's where they actually didn't make the cut.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Let's have a look at your defenders first of all. 2 you've gone for there. Let's start with Chowdhury because what I think with Chowdhury is you could play him across the whole back 4 if needed. Obviously, the left side would probably be the last one you'd want to do. But look, He gives you 100%. And if you want, I mean, I would have him as one of my defensive midfielders. Like I said, if you want somebody to come on and just calm things down and, put the boot in, stop anybody going past. This is the guy. Look, remember that West Brom game a couple of seasons ago? The triple save.
Yes. I don't think you bring Chowdhury on to calm things down.
Well, that's probably the wrong term, but if we're there and we are absolutely getting pounded,
and lacking in energy, then he's the guy. I put him there with a view that he could play anywhere across the back line or a defensive mid, and that's why I'm still not sure about one of the players that is there at the moment. But Chowdhury can do that. That he can slot in and do a job anywhere across there. And I think it's good to have a player sitting on the bench who is adaptable. He's for those of an older disposition, shall we say, he's the Paul Madeley of Leicester City.
Wow. I think the word you're looking for was not older, but ancient. And I tell you what I love about this guy, I mean, obviously he's captain when he stands in for Ricardo. He is, I saw him go down, it might have been in against Fiorentina, and he went down and he got up almost like he was sprung back up and was running back to get back into the defensive position where he obviously was being played to help his teammates out. Yeah. And I'm thinking, that's what you can't teach.
No, that's an attitude that's either there or it's not. And that's what causes him trouble sometimes, that he wants to go and win the next ball. He's won one and then the ball's broken free and he wants to go and win the next one instead of just thinking, okay, on the next one, I'm just going to stand up. My job, and when I'm, playing or play down the ears, the one thing I would talk to players is say, you don't need to win it. You just need to make them go where you want them to go. And if that's going back 10 yards or playing the ball back, that's what he needs to do. And the biggest disappointment for me with Chowdhury is that he hasn't learnt, or he doesn't appear to have learnt and developed that kind of thought process of where, okay, I can't win that ball. He always thinks he can win every ball. And that's the problem. And that's what causes us issues with him giving silly free kicks away or picking up yellow cards, is that he always thinks he can win the next ball and he can't. And he's not really developed from that. He's not really kicked on, which is a disappointment. But you need someone like that in the squad. I think it's a fair point. Simon Grace is very similar.
Yes.
So that's why he makes it.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with you again, as annoying as that is. But knowing you as I know you, there was never any doubt that if he wasn't in the starting 11, that this guy was going to be on the subs bench.
Oh, no.
Did you say no then?
No, I said no. In that there was no way that's not going to. Yeah, he wasn't going to be at least on the subs bench. And I still don't like myself for not picking him. But the two guys have played well so far, so they have to be. They're showing that they're strong performers. So I do like Fast. I like players who have a bit of aggression about them, particularly in defensive things. But he has a little more restraint, I feel, than Chowdhury. And he's more capable on the ball than Chowdhury. I wouldn't trust Chowdhury to pass a ball if it meant your life on it, Chris. Not
I'm disposable.
Yeah. Whereas Fast, he can, and he can move forward with it, and he can nip in with a goal. So, yeah, Fast was very close to being picked in the first 11. So he was always going to be a bench choice.
I'm going to say then, before we move on to the midfield, Ben Nelson.
Yes.
Was he one of those that you were?
Yes. Yeah, that was about. Yeah, it was a really tough decision, and because of you want to develop your own players, and Nelson is probably the future of the club more than Fars, more than Chowdhury. But I didn't particularly like what I saw of him when he played against Huddersfield. It wasn't a performance that filled me with a lot of confidence. He should have given 2 penalties away in that game because of rash challenges. And we heard that he was really good at Oxford and their manager thinks he can go and be a superstar in the Premier League or whatever. I didn't see that against Huddersfield, and that was a little bit disconcerting for me, that maybe he needs a little more development. And as much as I wanted him in here, and I could make an argument for him over Skip or Samari in terms of having an extra defender and one less deep-lying midfielder because Chowdhury could play in there.
Yeah.
But coming back to my point about in what situation would I bring him on, and I wouldn't bring him on ahead of Fars and I wouldn't bring him on ahead of Chowdhury. So that's where I had to make a tough decision that still sits a little bit uncomfortably with me. Yeah. But I had to make it.
Hi, Prashant. He says, sorry I'm late. Well, as long as you got a note from your mother, I'll let you off. I think the Huddersfield game, there was a
I've lost you there, Chris. You've seized up. I don't know if it's me or whether it's you. Which, if it's you, then everybody's listening to me saying nothing. I don't know if you've seized up. Obviously, the comments won't come up, so anybody can't put anything in the comments either. But let's see what happens.
There we go. I'm back. It was all going. It was. I thought I could see my little graph saying saying my signal was in and out. It was all going too well. That Huddersfield game. There was a few players, Alves and what have you, that didn't, perform. And I think we had this thing, didn't we? That we were all these youngsters. It's going to be great. And I was one of those. I'm saying, if we'd have a transfer embargo, it's all right. Give these youngsters a chance to come through. And then it was like, oh shit. Yeah, maybe they're not quite ready.
You've got to get a balance, and it's tricky with Nelson. But I see, someone agreeing there that he looks like he's regressed. That may be a little bit harsh based on one performance, but it was worrying. I think how easily he gave away 2 fouls in the box.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the excitement of actually getting a start, and he wanted to make a good impression, so he was going in for challenges that he shouldn't, but you can't afford that. And as I say, would I put him on ahead of either of those? And I wouldn't. So he didn't make the cut.
Yeah, and also let's move on to the midfielders. Mavididi, let's go to him first of all. I think he was a bit like the phase one. It was either or. So if he was never going to make you starting, he was always going to be on the bench.
Yeah, again, of all those 4, 3 of the 4 were out of the bench squad at one point or another when I was going through this. The only one that stayed there the whole time was Mavididi. And I still think he's got a valuable part to play, particularly with Monga, being young, as you say, he's not going to play every game for the whole game. So Mavididi's got a really important role to play. So he had to make the bench.
I tried to defend Skip last season because I hadn't really seen enough of him. I mean, it was funny. It's 20 million according to all the things, and yet everybody's winning. I think we got up to 26 million at the last time that somebody said. This is how much we paid for him. He should be a very good player, and he should do at this level what Winks did when 2 years ago. Fortunately for me, it hasn't worked. I remember saying that I wanted to see him and Winks together. I said that would probably be my ideal foursome. The midfield defensive midfield too. And then I saw them together, forget which game it was because my mind cut it out. And I'm like, no, never let them two on the same pitch again, ever, Look, we've got him. He's not going to be going anywhere. He's on a nice little earner. If there was one player here that I would say no, I wouldn't actually put him even on the subs bench at the moment, that is Skip. But Marty loves him, and Marty's been picking him with Sumare. Is that maybe because he's thinking that might be all he's left with, at the end of the transfer window?
Maybe. I think it's easier to talk about these two as a pair, I think, in many ways, because I think they're here. They've both made the final cut just probably because of their performances against Birmingham, where they were both a lot better than they have been. They both tracked back a lot more. There was one instance, I think, where it looked like there was a breakaway on and they both tracked someone down. I can't remember who it was, but to the side of the pitch and got a throw in. So there seemed to be more desire to work hard, but these two are definitely the ones who one of them's going to drop out at some point. Again, I could make the argument about Page dropping out and Nelson coming in for him as well, because sorry to talk about all these together, but it's probably easier rather than individually because they're all playing in a similar space. Skip hasn't progressed. We're talking about players regressing or progressing. I don't think Skip's progressed as much as he should have done by now. By all accounts, when he was down in this division on loan before at Norwich, he was absolutely fantastic. Went back to Spurs, didn't get much game time. He may be one of those players that gets better the more he plays. Evidence would suggest that that's the case so far because he's got better with each performance, each game this season. Samari can be phenomenal for 15 minutes. And I'd like to see Marty get that out of him. So if you want one to sit a little bit deeper, it'll probably be Skip. And I think Samari has the ability to push forward. The one who's going to look like he would be in the 10 role is Page. But then you've got Ayu who can play in that as well. And the only reason I've put Page in there is because I think he needs 15 to 20 minute slots in games to progress because he started the other day. He still looks too lightweight for me. He still looks too nervous, too many touches, almost as many touches as Ayu. But I think Ayu is second in the touches stats, only to Jimmy Savile. Now Page.
That's going to be brought up in the on YouTube.
Anyway, so Page looks a little bit lightweight. So I think if we're in a position where we're in control of games, then I think you can bring him on where there's a little less pressure on him to perform. But he looked really nervous at the start of the Birmingham game for me, even though he got the assist for Fatuhu's goal. Even that was a poor pass that was slightly behind him. And it looks like he needs to get a bit of confidence up again. So, but I've given him that opportunity to get those 15 to 20 minutes by keeping him on the bench. So those three midfielders could have all made an argument for stepping out of this or being in it, and it was a tough decision to keep all three of them in. To be honest,
Prashant, I do love your mother. Mrs. Tafrani, if you are watching, hello, how are you? Mum's note says, listen to Chris and Craig, can't go wrong with them. Well, who would I be to argue with your mother? Looking at those, to me, Monga is the one that we all think is going to be the breakthrough youth player this season. There's no doubt about that. But when you look at all the other options, the next one for me is Page. But when you look at the confidence that Monga's got, Monga's 16, Page is 17, but the confidence that Monga's got is like nobody's going to get this ball off me. I'm gonna do things with it. It's 1-2 that he played with Daka to get the ball across for Ricardo. But like you say, I find myself agreeing with you. It hurts. Yes, maybe he needs a few more shorter bursts, if you like. Skip and Samare, just Skip looked better, but then my argument would probably be he couldn't look any worse. And Samare, I mean, I've said before about the box to box. He's just he makes. I mean, he would lose if it was a 100-yard race and it was him versus Vestergaard. He wouldn't win it. I mean, to me, that's how slow this guy is. Our own players beat him when he's running back towards the goal if the opposition are attacking. Our own players are running back after him. It's like a comedy, like a Benny Hill scene. He's running fast, and he's the one. I'll tell you something. If ever I go into the woods at night, I know, in dark and scary woods, and there's wolves howling in the background, I would take Samari with me, because I tell you what, if I could run faster than him, and he'd be the one that got attacked at the back. Look, and then finally, let's just move on, talk about them both again. Ayew and Daka, you've got to have them. And I'm going to say, I think Daka is drinking at the last gasp saloon for me, but when we played Birmingham, I think it was the other day, he closed the keeper down and forced him to play it off to the side to another player. He then closed that player down and he passed it over to somebody just on the wing. And then he closed that player down as well, which, stopped them, gave our players the chance to get back and into position and what have you, and set up. He puts the effort in. But you could say, I can buy you, put the effort in. I just want to see goals from him. Look, we know there's goals in him, but that side, he does really, really well. And I understand why Marti maybe wanted to keep him. And Ayew, look, I love Ayew. I love Ayew to bits. He does what it says on the tin. He will get you the odd goal every now and again. I mean, he scored some important ones last season, and they obviously didn't come to anything at the end of the day. But he will he will hold the ball up for you. This is what the guy said from was it Palace? He came from Ayew. He said what he'll do is he'll come on, he'll go down and get you a free kick. And the first thing he did in the first game after we signed him was come on, go over and get a free kick, and he'll hold the ball up. So yeah, you've got to have these two on the bench at least, haven't you?
Yeah, I think they both bring something different. Ayew can play in that 10 role, and he has looked much better dropping into that role. Trouble is, sometimes he drops in that role when he's supposed to be playing up front. Sleeves a little bit short, but he's looked much better doing that. He can't lead the line. That's not his job. So there are going to be games where you need to almost slow it down up there, get the ball up there and let it stick and allow the rest of your team to get up the pitch a little bit. There's also going to be times in the games where you need to force something to happen. And I think that's where Daka comes in, that he, against tiring defenders, he will keep them blocked in. And even if we're ahead in a game and that the opposition are going to be pushing with a bit of everything, then having Daka to come on and close them down so they can't launch long balls or they can't play the way back out is going to be vitally important. So I think they both have really important roles to play. Daka, for all his sins, and we would love him to score more goals. Obviously we would. I'd love him to get on the score sheet. He doesn't go hiding. He doesn't come on the pitch so half-hearted to just run through the motions. He'll give everything he's got. He showed up for the 1-2 with Monga that brought about the second goal against Birmingham. He shows up. And I think he will have a role to play. I just hope that something hits him on the backside and goes in or whatever. But there will be times in games where both of these guys are important. Was it Villa he scored against last season? His one goal. I mean, it was
I can't remember who it was, but it was literally he took it so well. First time, didn't have time to think about it, and maybe that's his problem. He doesn't have time to think about it. He scores, and look, we know he started off well with those 4 goals in the cup. So we know there's goals in there, and again, look, all these players, and I said this at the start of the season, all the squad got a clean bill of health from me under Marti Cifuentes, even without phase, and West Ham, thank you, Ronald. And come on, I got the shirt right, claret and blue, just the wrong team, but thank you, Ronald. And I mean, look at Vestergaard under Enzo. All right, it was a bit, he got that role because of Cody getting injured, but he came in, never lost it all season. So every player deserves the new start. Maybe we'll see that with Daka. Like you say, Sumari and Skip are improving. Let's say this team, all these players, have only had 6 games under Marti. One of those was a friendly against Fiorentina, and one of those was a cup game when you're going to sort of maybe try things around. To me, this is where the season starts now. Plus also we've got 9 points. If we get 9 points deduction, it is literally where the season starts for us.
It is. And I know mentioned there about Dick Cordova-Reid not getting on the bench. Yeah, I mean, the other big one, if we're talking about everybody's fit and available, obviously Evans hasn't made the bench. Silko Thomas, who was on the bench last week against Birmingham, hasn't made the bench. Aluko, the young defender, hasn't made the bench. Christensen hasn't made the bench. If he's fit, that would be a tough one to leave out. What that tells me is that we're in a decent shape with a decent squad. If you could make an argument for 3 or 4 other players to actually make the bench, that puts us in a good position for me.
It does. And I have to say, Cordova-Reid would make my bench, but that bench is up at Bradford Park. So there we go. Craig, thank you very, very much. I am amazed that there's nobody that as much as I'd like to see some of these youngsters, like Nelson, Silko Thomas, and they will come through, because these players are going to get yellow cards and then maybe miss games and what have you, so they will get the chances, and it's a long season. It's a long season. But of course, this one might change in January. If we get, as somebody said earlier, get Brownhill on a free and 1 or 2 other signings come in. But like I say, mate, I can't argue for once with I like who you picked there. But have a good week off. We've got no Foxes Forum as much next week because really we all need a rest and there's not really much to talk about. So unless we do a special on Eric Ten Hag losing his job in record time, I would have thought that. Yes, Prashant, and your mother. Great, thank you very much, sir. We always appreciate it. And you are one of the few on here that actually talk sense, and I include myself in that. Thank you very much for coming on. Yes. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it. I don't know about you. I'm not watching any England play game this weekend. No. I just can't be bothered.
No.
I get more excited by the women. And that sounds wrong, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. I enjoy watching the women. Yeah, I know. I enjoy
well. Yeah. No. Whatever you're going to say isn't going to work.
No, I'm going to stick at this. I enjoy watching the women's England team play football more than the men's. And we shouldn't leave without saying congratulations. 2 things, really. The August Goal of the Month voting is now open. I don't think we had that at the end of last season, did we? I don't think we had a...
I think Dick Cordova-Reid got a Goal of the Month, anyway, for one that hit him against Man United. He was a yard out. Yeah.
But as the saying goes, they just keep on coming. And we today confirmed, the club confirmed, 11 academy players have been rewarded for the continued progress with our academy pathway by signing their first professional contracts. Like I said, it's not a white elephant, is it?
No, exactly, Chris. It was never in doubt, was it?
It wasn't. Not a lot of names that I recognise in there, but well done to them all. The future's bright. The future's blue. Craig, thank you very much, sir. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Soon. Cheers, mate.
Brilliant.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. All the best. All the best. Thanks to Craig there, my wise old owl. I call him worse when he's not on. Always appreciating coming on. Always talk sense. You know you're going to get that with Craig. Guys, if you're still in, please smash that likes button. Whoopsie-daisy, I've just... I pressed the wrong button there. Do click that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell, because the shows are all over the place next week. And if you're watching on catch up, add your thoughts in the description below on YouTube. And you can also like, subscribe, and click that notification bell, and share the video if you know somebody who's a Leicester fan and isn't watching these. Why not? Share the video. Say to them, go over and watch these guys. We don't try to take things too seriously. I hope that comes across. And if you're watching via your favourite podcast platform, thank you muchly. We will see you, I don't know, because I don't know when the next show is. Have a great weekend, everybody. Don't do anything I won't enjoy, and I will see you sometime next week. Take care. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.